Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Now today we have a Ford Transit behind us and it is shaking, hard to start and missing very badly. Now the first thing you kind of think of is injectors. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the injectors and see if it is the injectors and how to spot what injector's gone and blah 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 blah. And this will kind of go with any diesel engine out there. This is kind of the way to test it. So all I've done is I've just taken off the air filter so you can see the top of the injectors and the common rail. It just makes life a bit easier. There's only 2 bolts and the air filter comes off. So let's get looking and see what happens. Now, as you can see, we're on top of the engine. We have the 4 injectors here. The first thing we can see is a lot of oil around the injectors. Now there's an injector oil seal, you can't see it, but it's just below the oil. But that's not what's causing our problem. But that is a problem we're going to have to address. The downside to it is you have to take the injectors out, well, especially all the mechanisms out, to actually replace them, which is annoying. But anyway, so what we're going to do is there's a couple of ways of doing it. We can do a leak-off test, which we're going to do, but there's a slightly easier way if you haven't got a leak test machine. I'm going to start it up so you can see what it looks like and sounds like. As you can see, it's really shaky, there's no power, and it's just not running very nicely. So what we need to do is we need to see if we've definitely got a problem with the injectors, or is it another problem somewhere else. One of the easiest ways to find out if we've got a problem is to disconnect the actual injector leads here, the sockets. Now this won't tell us if an injector's gone, it'll just say we've got a problem with either this injector or this cylinder or this injector and this cylinder and blah 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 all the way across. So we're going to do that first. I'm going to start the engine and I'm going to pull off each one of these in turn and see exactly what happens. What we're looking for is we're looking to pull an injector off and nothing changes. So the engine stays the same, it still starts rattling, it doesn't cut out. That's what we're looking for. If we've got that, we know we have a problem with either that cylinder, that injector, or something kind of along them lines. Let's pull off number 4. Now, pulled off number 4, and as you can see, nothing has changed. Pull off number 3. Right, so I pulled off number 3 and the engine stopped. So it's looking like we've definitely got a problem with this injector, this cylinder or something along them lines. If you've got an injector seal gone, you'll normally hear a puffing like an old steam train, and you might see some kind of steam coming out of here, but we're not getting that. So I'm going to start it again, do the other 2. Now, same thing again. The reason why you want to do all 4 or all 6 or whatever your engine happens to be is we need to know if it's just 1 or 2 or 3 or kind of whatever. Normally with a 4-cylinder engine, it might start on 2 cylinders, but it's going to be bad. 1 cylinder, I think from the looks of the shake, I think it is only 1 cylinder. If you've got 3 that's gone, well, it's not going to start on a 4-cylinder engine anyway. So 1 definitely will start, 2 is just kind of, it might not. So last one. Now, so what this is telling us is it's not telling us to have a problem with the injector, just telling we have a problem with this cylinder. Don't really think it's going to be the pump, because if it was the pump, it's supplying diesel to all other 3 injectors and it's a common rail, so it's not really the pump, you could say. If it was the pump pressure is a bit low, well, then we'd be having the engine mostly wouldn't start because none of the injectors will be opening properly. So we can kind of say it is looking like either this injector or this cylinder. So we could have problems with the rings in the cylinder, we could have no compression in this cylinder, or we could have a problem with the actual injector. Now, the way we're going to test that is, oh, the other thing is, the other way of knowing if you kind of got a problem in the injector, you'll kind of see like bluish white smoke come out the back because obviously the engine isn't running properly. So if you've got them symptoms, this is kind of where you really need to be looking. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a leak-off test and see what the diesel situation is like through the injectors. That'll just give us a bit better idea. I realise not everyone's going to have a leak-off test, but just doing what I did there is all it's done is pinpointed the cylinder problem. So this we know we've got a problem somewhere in this area. We haven't pinpointed exactly what the problem is yet. Even though, to be fair, it is kind of looking like an injector, but you can't be 100% sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a leak-off test and see exactly what the story is. Now, on these are the return pipes, so we need to take off these return pipes here. Now, you have to be very, very careful. There's a little green clip. They are very... As you can see, that little green clip, we have to take all 4 of them off, and we have to very, very carefully take out the plastic pipe, which, as you can see, is really down there. I'm going to take off all these 4 first before I even attempt to try and... I was hoping that might come off a bit easy, but it's not going to. So I'm going to take all 4 of them off, and the reason I'm going to do that there's another one. The reason why I'm going to do that is as I'm pulling up against this, if this quickly shoots up, I could snap it here because it still keep the pressure down. So once I've taken them other 2 clips off and very, very carefully wiggled these up, I'll turn the camera back on and we'll continue. Now, here's our leak-off test. We had a bit of a nightmare getting it on. The little connections I had in my set, the O-rings wasn't big enough. So I had to take the O-rings off the original return pipe and fit them on my little set. Now, you don't need to go down this route. You can do this very, very cheaply. You just get normal bottles. They don't have to have measurements on. Just 3mm tubing, which you would find in your windscreen wiper washers. The hardest thing is getting the connections right, but what you can do is you can go down to your local scrapyard and cost a couple of quid, but not a lot, and you can get the connections off all the cars. Like, these are the Delphi connections. These are the hardest ones to kind of make. The others you can kind of make, but these would be quite difficult. And for a couple of quid you can just rip off all the connections on a lot of cars and have them there waiting for you, and you'll be able to make this set for under a tenner. I mean, you really could. For example, this one, all you'd need to do is just disconnect it from the pump down here, and then you would have the transit rail. Really, really simple. So what I had to do is just take the O-ring off, and all I'm doing is putting it down. Move that out of the way now. Putting it down on top of the injector, making sure it's sealed, putting the little clip back just to hold it. Simple as that. And then line up. We've got that one, that's got to be the wrong one in there. 1, 2, 3, that's number 3, or number 2 should I say. Number 4 just clips on it. All I'm going to do is start the engine and watch for these 4 bottles to fill up. Now, you don't really need to worry about how much you fill up. There is a measurement for most cars, but you don't really need to know it, to be fair. What we want to see is if 3 fill up the same and 1 fills up, you know, twice as much as the other ones, well then you know you have a problem with that injector. If all 4 fill up the same, well then you know it's most probably not the injector. We've got something else to kind of have a look at. But this just gives us an idea of where to go. difficult to see because of the engine rattling, but as soon as it's finished, I'm going to leave it running for a couple of minutes, and as soon as it's done, I'll turn the camera back on and we'll have a look at the tube. Now, we have a couple of problems here. Number 2 didn't fill, and the reason number 2 doesn't fill because the O-ring had stretched and it was leaking. There was nothing I could do about it, and we got a little bit of leakage out of number 1 too. But as you can see, if it wasn't for the leakage out of 1, and with the amount of diesel that is just down there on number 3, they are more or less the same. The levels are exactly the same. So I don't think it's injector. What it kind of looks like now is maybe compression in the engine. So we'll have to do a compression test just to be 100% sure about that cylinder. But it's looking like maybe engine problems more so than anything else now. Lovely. Now there's a few things we could do. We could do a compression test. We could do a head gasket test to make sure maybe the head gasket isn't gone and causing a problem. We can also do a combustion chamber leak test, but there's no point. And the reason is there's no point is we've done a leakoff test, so we've tested the injectors, and you can see all the injectors, apart from the middle one, which that was my fault. They're all, you know, they're more or less the same. Now they do say 10% difference, you've got a bad injector, but we're really more or less bang on across the mark. So we haven't got a bad injector. These are coded injectors, and not only that, if we had a bad injector, we should have an engine code saying we have a bad injector. We have no engine codes relaying to the injectors. And when we disconnect the injector on cylinder number 4, it doesn't do anything. Not only that, I've noticed, I don't know why I didn't notice it before, this diesel doesn't look right. It's very milky. There doesn't appear to be water in it. Well, there isn't any water in it, but there's something in it. It's definitely not right. Now, I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on there with the diesel. Bad diesel can destroy injector pumps and injectors, but the injectors seem to be working fine as regards the leak-off test. Bad diesel won't necessarily do damage inside your engine. As such, it kind of does, but the injectors fail and the pump fails before you normally have a problem inside your engine. So I'm guessing we've definitely, well, not so much guessing, but I am pretty more convinced we've got a problem with cylinder number 4. So I'm going to have to get on to the customer and see what he wants me to do, in the sense of, does he want me to either change the engine, or I'm not sure. I don't know what they want me to do. I could start doing other tests, but the thing is, most people aren't going to have these compression testers and all this sort, because you know they're very expensive, especially for diesels. They're ridiculously expensive. So there's no point me really showing you this after this test came up quite clear. And like I said, we've got no engine code, so I'm pretty much certain the injectors are okay. I'm not sure what's going on with this diesel. That's definitely not right as regards the diesel, but yeah, it's looking like cylinder number 4, there's some sort of problem. Now with the combustion chamber leak test, that will tell you exactly what's wrong. So do you have problems with your inlet, your outlet, your problems with your ring? It'll tell you exactly where the leak is. But once you've got a leak or something, you don't really need to know exactly where it is. You just know you've got a problem. And especially with a kind of van like this, it will be cheaper buying a second-hand engine, putting it in, than it would be trying to repair this engine. It's really as simple as that. To give you an idea, to buy kind of like the, you know, a good brand that I would need, because I'm using it quite a lot, you're talking over 500 quid. So for someone just to go out and buy one that they're only going to use it once, it's not really thing to do. You can buy cheaper ones, and again, if you're just using the odd time, yeah, there's going to be nothing wrong with that. So you know, you can do that. But I've rang the customer because to do the test, I'm going to have to do a lot more stripping, and to actually get to the heater plugs, which are hidden in these, so I can put the special adapters on to test it. But he's basically said no, he doesn't want to do that what they're doing is they're going to buy a brand new van. They're going to trade this one in and buy a brand new van. They just need something that isn't going to let them down, and they've got a lot of work on, so that's the way he's going to do it. So unfortunately I can't show you that because I'm not going to have it for long enough to be able to do that. But like I said, really with what we've done with the leakoff test of the injectors and pulling out the wires for the injectors, that's really, it's telling you exactly what's wrong. Pulling out the wires will tell you which problem you have with the injectors, just like a spark plug, like you do with a petrol engine. As you pull them off, if the engine doesn't change or doesn't cut out, you know you've got a problem with that particular cylinder. Then we did the leakoff test, and as you can see, the leakoff test has the diesel all the same level. Now the diesel is a funny colour, but there's maybe some either you know, because this van does hellish miles a week, so maybe there's, I don't know, there's some crap in the bottom of the tank. You're going to put something in the tank, I'm not sure, but anyway, that's nothing to do with it, because the other 3 injectors are working perfect, so I'm not blaming the diesel. If none of the injectors are working and the engine wouldn't start at all, you could then maybe look at the diesel. Because 3 cylinders are working perfectly, I'm ruling out having a problem with the diesel. So it really does look like cylinder number 4 has lost compression. With the leakoff test, with the leakage test, it would tell you exactly where it's losing compression, in the sense of, is it the intake, is it the exhaust side, is it the rings, you know, it'll tell you exactly. And hopefully shortly we'll get a vehicle in where I can actually do that test to show you what it looks like. It is simple, depending on the car. It's just that the actual tester is quite expensive. So yeah, all I'm going to do is put this back together and we'll be done. So really that is it. I mean, that really is how to determine what problem you've got with an injector slash cylinder slash whatever you happen to be doing. So basically what we've done in this video is simply, and this will work on any diesel engine, so if you're having these similar problems with any diesel engine, like the engine, you know, it's as if it's missing, which you can obviously tell because it's running really rough, there's no power and the engine's shaking like crazy. Now if you've got problems with 2 injectors or 3, or the problem with the cylinders, the engine just will not start. Might start on a petrol engine, 2 cylinders possibly, but a diesel engine, again, it just depends on your diesel engine. With a 4-cylinder, I doubt it. But this will basically, on any diesel engine, that's how you do a leak down test for the injectors. And you can see across the board, they do say 10%. So if you've got 3 things full up and you've got one 10% lower or 10% higher, they do say that's the problem in the injectors. You do have to be aware if you've got coded injectors. Now if you haven't got coded injectors, what you could actually do is you could swap the injectors around. So you know you've got a good injector, put that in say where you think you've got a problem, and if you put the good injector into the cylinder that is bad and that doesn't work, well then you know 100% it's the cylinder. Or if it does the same thing again, so if the bad injector you swap around starts working, well then you definitely know it's the cylinder rather than the injector. If you then start having a problem where you put the bad injector in, well then you know. But like I said, the thing with most modern injectors that are coded, if you have a problem, if you have a problem with the injector, an engine light would come on and you would get an error code, some sort of P code saying you've got a problem with one of the injectors. We've got no error codes on this whatsoever. So that really does say, well, it's inside the engine. We've got the problem, because as far as the computer's concerned, it thinks all the injectors are fine. It doesn't know that cylinder isn't particularly working. It just knows it's opening up at the right time, it's putting that amount of diesel in, so it thinks, okay, well everything's fine, where obviously it isn't. So it really is as simple as that. This has told us that we've got a problem in cylinder 4. To be 100% sure, I would have liked to have done the test, but I don't have the time to do it. He wants the van back because he's literally going to trade it in as we speak, and so I just have to show everything back together. So that's really it. That's how to do a leak down test. It's how to figure out if you've got a problem with your injector / cylinder. And you know, it really is kind of straightforward. So look, hope it helps. Thumbs up and subscribe. Don't forget, get your hands dirty, check out our shop, sign up to our forum, and we'll see you for the next one.